The Chicago winter bit through Maya Santos's threadbare coat like knives as she clutched the crumpled address in her trembling hand. Street. Catherine's Children's Hospital. Pediatric Oncology Wing. Room 407. The words were smeared from how many times she'd read them, reread them, prayed over them in the past 6 hours. Her little brother needed her. 7-year-old Mateo, who'd been fighting leukemia for 2 years, who'd lost his hair but never his smile, who still asked if she'd bring him hot chocolate when she visited, even though the chemo made everything taste like metal. The hospital had called 3 hours ago. Complications. Come immediately. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you, but Maya's phone had died. Her bus pass had expired. And she was lost in a part of Chicago she'd never seen before, where the buildings loomed like giants and the streets all looked the same in the darkness. The wealthy Gold Coast district, where people like her only existed to clean houses or deliver food. She'd been walking for 40 minutes, asking strangers for directions, but everyone hurried past like she was invisible. Just another poor girl in a cheap coat, not worth their time. The panic in her chest grew with every passing minute. Mateo needed her. He was probably scared, asking for her, wondering why his sister wasn't there. Maya turned down another street, desperation making her bold. She'd ask the next person she saw, no matter what. She had to find the hospital. That's when she heard the sirens. 3 police cars screamed past, lights painting the snowy street in red and blue. Maya pressed against a building, heart hammering. She'd learned young to make herself small when cops appeared. Girls from her neighborhood, daughters of immigrants who cleaned the houses in this part of town, didn't attract police attention on purpose. The sirens faded, but Maya's pulse didn't slow. Something felt wrong. The street was too quiet now, too empty, like the city was holding its breath. Then she saw him. A man emerged from an alley 20 feet ahead, moving fast but not running. He wore an expensive charcoal suit, no coat despite the freezing temperature. Dark hair was disheveled, and even from a distance, Maya could see blood on his white shirt collar. Everything in her screamed to turn around, to disappear back the way she came. But Mateo's face flashed in her mind. His pale skin, his brave smile, his small hand gripping hers during treatments. The man was walking toward her now, his eyes scanning the street like he expected more sirens. When his gaze landed on Maya, something flickered across his face. Calculation, decision. Maya stepped forward before she could change her mind. "Excuse me." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I'm looking for Street Catherine's Hospital, the Children's Wing. Do you know where?" The man closed the distance between them in 3 strides. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, maybe 30, with sharp features and eyes so dark they looked black in the streetlight. The blood on his collar was definitely real. "You need to leave this street. Now." His voice was low, controlled, with an accent she couldn't place. Italian, maybe, or Russian. "I just need directions," Maya insisted, though her hands shook. "My brother, he's 7, he has cancer, and the hospital called and I got lost, and my phone's dead and I Colombo Street." He cut her off, glancing over his shoulder. 4 blocks north, then east. You'll see the signs." He started to move past her, but Maya's hand shot out, catching his sleeve. The fabric was silk, expensive, probably cost more than her entire month's rent. "Wait, you're bleeding. Are you hurt? Do you need help?" The man stared at her hand on his arm like she'd just done something completely insane. Maybe she had, but Maya had. Spent 2 years in hospital waiting rooms. She knew what blood meant, what emergencies looked like. Let go. His voice was different now. Dangerous. Maya dropped his sleeve but didn't step back. "There's a clinic 3 blocks that way. I passed it on my walk. They might still be. More sirens. Closer this time." The man's jaw tightened. His hand moved to his jacket, and Maya's breath caught when she saw the gun holstered there. "Not a cop then. Definitely not. You didn't see me." His eyes locked onto hers, intense and unreadable. "Forget this conversation. Forget my face. Go to your brother." He turned and walked away with that same controlled pace, disappearing around a corner just as 2 more police cars turned onto the street. Maya stood frozen, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it over the sirens. The police cars rolled past slowly, searchlights sweeping the sidewalks. One beam caught her for a moment, and Maya forced herself to start walking, heading north like the man had said. 4 blocks north, then east. She walked fast, her mind racing. The expensive suit, the gun, the blood, the way he moved like violence was a language he spoke fluently, the way the police were hunting him. She'd just helped a criminal, maybe even a killer, but he'd helped her too, given her directions when no one else would, warned her to leave instead of using her as a shield or a hostage. The hospital appeared like a miracle at the end of the 4th block, its lit windows a beacon in the winter night. Maya broke into a run, her worn sneakers slipping on ice, her lungs burning from cold and fear and relief. She burst through the emergency entrance, gave Mateo's name to the nurse, and was directed to the elevator. 4th floor, room 407. Her little brother was asleep when she arrived, small and fragile in the hospital bed, tubes running from his thin arms, but he was breathing, stable. The nurse explained there'd been a fever spike, a concern about infection, but the antibiotics were working. Maya collapsed into the chair beside his bed, taking Mateo's hand carefully, avoiding the IV. Tears she'd been holding back for hours finally came, silent and hot. She'd made it. He was okay. But as she sat there in the quiet hospital room, watching her brother's chest rise and fall, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the man in the alley, the blood on his collar, the gun at his side, the way he'd looked at her like she was the strangest thing he'd encountered all night. She wondered if he was okay, if the police had caught him, if he'd hurt someone or been hurt himself. Then she wondered why she cared. 3 weeks passed before Maya saw him again. 3 weeks of double shifts at the diner where she waitressed, of overnight cleaning jobs in the office buildings downtown, of sleeping in hospital chairs while Mateo underwent another round of chemo. 3 weeks of surviving on 4 hours of sleep and gas station coffee, of stretching every dollar until it screamed. The medical bills were crushing them. Even with Medicaid covering most of Mateo's treatment, there were copays, medications, special foods he could keep down. Their mother worked 2 jobs but still couldn't keep up. Maya had dropped out of community college to help, trading her dreams of becoming a teacher for the reality of keeping her little brother alive. She didn't regret it. Not when Mateo smiled at her. Not when he asked her to read him another chapter of the fantasy books he loved. Not when he held her hand during the bad moments. But she was tired. Tired in her bones, in her soul, in ways she didn't know a 23-year-old could be tired. It was a Saturday morning, and Maya had just finished her night shift cleaning the Mason Tower, a luxury high-rise where the penthouses went for millions. She was walking to the bus stop, looking forward to 3 hours of sleep before her afternoon diner shift, when she saw the bakery. Russo's. She'd passed it 100 times, but never gone in. The pastries in the window were works of art, golden and perfect, the kind of thing people like her only saw in magazines. But today was Mateo's birthday. He was turning 8, and Maya had exactly $17 left after paying for his medication. She could get him something special, just one perfect cannoli with the cream filling he described after seeing them on a cooking show. The bell chimed as she entered, and warmth enveloped her along with the scent of fresh bread and sugar. The shop was empty except for an older woman behind the counter, elegant with silver-streaked dark hair and kind eyes. "Buongiorno," the woman greeted, her accent thick and musical. "How can I help you today?" Maya approached the counter, suddenly aware of how she must look. Her cleaning company uniform was wrinkled, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. "I'd like a cannoli, please. Just one. The kind with the sweet cream." The woman smiled, but before she could respond, the door to the back room opened, and there he was. The man from the alley wore dark slacks and a white button-down today, sleeves rolled to his elbows. No blood this time, no gun visible, but Maya recognized him instantly. Those sharp features, those dark eyes that saw everything. He froze when he saw her, and something flickered across his face. Surprise, recognition, something else she couldn't name. "Dante," the woman said in Italian, unaware of the tension crackling between them. "We have a customer." Dante. So that was his name. His eyes never left Maya's face. "I see that, Mama." Mama. This elegant woman was his mother. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Which meant this was his family's bakery. The woman, oblivious to the silent standoff, began selecting a perfect cannoli from the display. "Are you celebrating something special? You have the look of someone choosing a gift." "My little brother's birthday." Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. "He's turning 8 today. 8. A wonderful age. The woman wrapped the cannoli with practiced care. "What's your brother's name?" "Mateo." "A good strong name." She smiled warmly, then quoted a price that made Maya's stomach drop. $12. She'd have 5 left for the rest of the week. But it was Mateo's birthday. Maya pulled crumpled bills from her jacket pocket, counting them out carefully. As she did, she felt Dante's stare burning into her, intense and calculating. "You work at Mason Tower," he said suddenly. Not a question. Maya's hand trembled as she placed the money on the counter. "Night cleaning crew. How did you—" "The logo on your jacket." He gestured to the small embroidered Mason Tower insignia. "You work the late shift?" 11 to 7. She didn't know why she was answering him. Didn't know why she wasn't running out the door. His mother looked between them, curiosity lighting her expression. "You two know each other?" "We met once," Dante said before Maya could answer. "Briefly. Very briefly," Maya added quickly, taking the wrapped cannoli. "Thank you for this. My brother will love it." She turned to leave, but Dante's voice stopped her. "The man you were looking for that night." "Your brother. He's sick?" Maya turned back slowly. His mother was watching him now, something knowing in her eyes. "He has leukemia," Maya said, meeting Dante's gaze. "He's been fighting it for 2 years." The woman's hand flew to her chest. "Dio mio, so young." "He's strong," Maya said, though her voice cracked slightly. "Stronger than me." Dante and his mother exchanged a look, some silent communication Maya couldn't interpret. Then the woman moved, opening the display case and selecting 3 more cannoli, adding them to a larger box. "For your family," she said firmly when Maya started to protest. "For Mateo's birthday celebration. I can't afford no charge." Dante's voice was final. "Consider it a birthday gift from strangers." "We're not strangers," his mother added with a warm smile. "I'm Sofia Russo. This is my son, Dante. And you are?" "Maya. Maya Santos." She shouldn't be giving them her real name. Shouldn't be standing here having a conversation with a man the police had been chasing 3 weeks ago. But Sofia's kindness felt like sunlight after weeks of darkness. And Dante's eyes held something that wasn't quite gentleness but wasn't cruelty either. "Thank you," Maya said softly, accepting the box. "This means more than you know." As she turned to leave again, Sofia called after her. "Maya, bring Mateo by sometime when he's feeling up to it. I'll make him something special." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice, and pushed through the door into the cold morning. She made it half a block before the tears came. Kindness from strangers shouldn't break her like this. But it had been so long since anyone had given her anything without expecting something in return. So long since she'd felt seen instead of invisible. She wiped her eyes quickly and kept walking. Mateo's birthday cannoli clutched carefully in her hands. Behind her, through the bakery window, Dante Russo watched her disappear into the morning crowd, his expression unreadable. Maya told herself she wouldn't go back to the bakery. Whatever Dante Russo was involved in, whatever had put police on his trail that night, she didn't need to know. She had enough problems. But Mateo had other ideas. "Please, Maya, just one more time?" His thin face was so hopeful as he looked up from his hospital bed 2 weeks after his birthday. "Mrs. Sofia said she'd make me something special. And she's so nice. She reminds me of Abuela." Their grandmother had died when Mateo was 4. He barely remembered her, but he'd loved her cooking, her warmth, the way she'd made their tiny apartment smell like home. Maya couldn't say no to that. So on a Sunday afternoon, when Mateo was having a good day, when his color was better and his smile was real, Maya bundled him in his warmest coat and took him to Russo's. Sofia's face lit up like Christmas morning when they entered. "Mateo." She came around the counter immediately, kneeling to his level. "Look at you, so handsome. Your sister told me it was your birthday. Did you like the cannoli?" "It was the best thing I've ever tasted," Mateo said solemnly. "Even better than the food on TV." Sofia laughed, a rich, warm sound. "Well, today I'm going to make you something even better. Come, sit." She guided them to a small table by the window, the only seating in the shop. The bakery wasn't busy, just a few customers coming in for their Sunday morning bread and pastries. Dante wasn't there. Maya told herself she wasn't disappointed. Told herself the flutter of relief in her chest wasn't actually disappointment. Sofia brought hot chocolate for Mateo, real hot chocolate with whipped cream and cinnamon, and a cappuccino for Maya she hadn't ordered but definitely needed. "On the house," Sofia insisted when Maya tried to pay. "Your family now." "Family." The word made Maya's throat tight. While Sophia went to work in the back, Mateo explored the bakery with the careful excitement of a child who'd learned to ration his energy. He pressed his nose to the display case, studying each pastry like they were treasures. "Maya, look at this one. It's shaped like a little boat." Maya smiled, watching him. These moments, when Mateo forgot about being sick, when he was just a kid discovering something wonderful, these were worth everything. The front door opened. Maya felt him before she saw him. Dante Russo entered carrying boxes of supplies, moving with that same controlled grace she remembered from their first meeting. He wore dark jeans and a black Henley today, and Maya couldn't help but notice the way the fabric stretched across his shoulders. He saw them immediately. His eyes found Maya's, held for a beat too long, then moved to Mateo. Something in his expression shifted, softened. "You must be Mateo." Dante set the boxes down and approached their table. "I'm Dante. My mother hasn't stopped talking about you for 2 weeks. Mateo looked up at this tall, intimidating man and grinned. "She said she'd make me something special." "Did she?" Dante glanced toward the kitchen, and Maya saw his lips twitch, almost a smile. "Then you're in for an experience. My mother's specials are legendary." He pulled out the third chair and sat without asking, his presence filling the small space. Maya's pulse kicked up, awareness prickling along her skin. "Your sister tells me you're a fighter," Dante said to Mateo. "I have leukemia," Mateo replied matter-of-factly. "But it's not going to beat me. I'm tougher than cancer." "I believe it." Dante's voice was serious, respectful in a way that treated Mateo like an equal rather than a sick child. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "A chef." Mateo's eyes shone. "Like on the cooking shows. I want to make food that makes people happy." Dante nodded slowly. "Noble profession. Food brings people together. It's love you can taste." Maya stared at him, surprised by the poetry in such a dangerous man's words. Mateo, emboldened by Dante's attention, launched into an enthusiastic description of his favorite cooking shows, the dishes he wanted to learn to make, the restaurant he'd open someday. Dante listened with focused attention, asking questions, offering insights into techniques and ingredients. Watching them, Maya felt something crack open in her chest. Mateo didn't have a father their dad had left before he was born. Most men either pitied him or were uncomfortable around his illness. But Dante treated him like he mattered, like his dreams were real and achievable, not the fragile wishes of a sick child. Sophia emerged with a plate that made Mateo gasp. Fresh sfogliatelle, the shell-shaped pastries crispy and perfect, alongside a personal-sized tiramisu decorated with a chocolate figure of a chef's hat. "For our future chef," Sophia announced, setting it before Mateo with ceremony. While Mateo dove in with the enthusiasm only a kid could muster, Sophia pulled Dante aside. Maya tried not to eavesdrop, but the bakery was small and they were speaking in rapid Italian. She caught enough words to understand. Sophia was asking about Maya, about her situation, about whether Dante had done something about it yet. Dante's response was too quiet to hear, but his mother's answer wasn't. "Family helps family, Dante. And that girl? She's drowning. I can see it in her eyes." Maya's cheeks burned. She focused on Mateo, on his joy, on anything except the conversation happening 10 feet away. When Dante returned to the table, his expression was unreadable again, all that momentary softness locked away behind his usual controlled mask. Maya. Her name sounded different in his voice, foreign and intimate at once. "Can I speak with you, privately?" Her stomach dropped. "I should stay with Mateo. I'll watch him," Sophia interjected smoothly. "We're going to discuss the proper way to layer tiramisu. Very important business." Maya had no choice but to follow Dante through the back door into the kitchen. The space was immaculate, industrial, built for serious work. Dante leaned against a steel counter, arms crossed, studying her with that intense focus that made her feel exposed. "How much are your brother's medical bills?" he asked bluntly. Maya's spine stiffened. "That's none of your business. My mother thinks otherwise. She's decided you're family, which makes it my business. We're not your charity case." "No." His voice was firm. "You're survivors. There's a difference. But survivors need resources to keep surviving." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "Why do you care? You don't know us. I know you walked 4 blocks in the freezing cold, lost and desperate, but still stopped to ask if I needed help when you saw blood on my Rex collar." Dante's eyes never left hers. "I know you work 2 jobs to pay for your brother's treatment. I know you're exhausted. And I know that in about 6 weeks, you're going to hit a wall where even your considerable strength won't be enough. How did he know these things? The question must have shown on her face because Dante's expression turned almost apologetic. I make it my business to know about people in my territory, especially people who've seen me at my most vulnerable. Territory. The word confirmed what Maya had suspected. Dante Russo wasn't just a man who got into trouble with police. He was someone with power, influence, control over parts of Chicago. He was exactly the kind of man her mother had warned her about. I don't want your help, Maya said, even though it was a lie. Even though she was drowning and he was offering a rope. Yes, you do. You're just afraid of what it might cost. Dante moved closer, and Maya's breath caught. So, I'll be clear about the price. Nothing. No strings. No debt. No expectations. Nobody helps for free. My mother does. Every day. His voice softened. Sophia Russo feeds half the neighborhood kids who come here hungry. She forgets to charge elderly customers. She accidentally overfills boxes. She helps because it's who she is. And you? Maya forced herself to meet his eyes. Is helping who you are? Dante was quiet for a long moment. No. I'm what the world made me when helping wasn't enough to keep my family safe. But that doesn't mean I've forgotten how. The honesty in his voice disarmed her. Maya wanted to refuse, to walk away with her pride intact. But pride wouldn't pay for Mateo's next round of chemo. Pride wouldn't keep them from losing their apartment. Why? She whispered. Why us? Because you asked me for directions when you should have run. Dante's expression turned intense. Because you saw what I was and still offered help. Because your little brother deserves his chance to become a chef. He paused. And because I have resources. Using them to help someone who actually deserves it? That's the closest thing to redemption I'm likely to get. Maya felt tears threatening. She blinked them back furiously. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Dante considered this. Let my mother fuss over Mateo. Let her teach him to make cannoli. Let her feel like she's helping, because it matters to her. He moved closer still, close enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. And accept that sometimes the world gives you something good without demanding payment. Even if it doesn't happen often, even if it seems impossible. The kitchen door swung open. Sophia appeared, Mateo's hand in hers, his face smeared with chocolate and cream. Everything all right back here? Sophia's eyes moved between them knowingly. Perfect, Mama. Dante stepped back, putting distance between himself and Maya. I was just telling Maya about our delivery service. How we can drop off fresh bread every Sunday, free of charge for families with medical situations. Sophia's smile was radiant. What a wonderful idea, Dante. Why didn't I think of that? Maya looked at Dante, seeing the careful construction of pride-saving fiction, the way he'd just given his mother credit for his own generosity. That's very kind, Maya heard herself say. Mateo would love fresh bread on Sundays. Settled then. Sophia beamed. Now, Mateo and I need your address for deliveries. As Sophia guided Mateo back to the front to write down their information, Dante caught Maya's arm gently. One more thing, he said quietly. That night, when you asked me for directions, I was running from men who wanted me dead. I could have used you as a hostage. Could have put you in danger to save myself. Maya's breath caught. But I didn't, and I never would. His dark eyes held hers, intense and sincere. Whatever you think I am, whatever you've heard about men like me, know this. I don't hurt innocent people. Especially not brave girls who just want to save their little brothers. He released her arm and walked away, leaving Maya standing in the industrial kitchen, her world tilting on its axis. She'd just made a deal with a devil who baked bread with his mother on Sundays and treated sick children with respect. And the terrifying part? She was starting to think he might not be a devil at all. The bread arrived every Sunday morning like clockwork. Not just bread pastries, fresh fruit, containers of Sophia's homemade soup. Enough food to stretch through the week, easing the constant calculation of dollars versus nutrition that had defined Maya's life for 2 years. Mateo loved it. He'd wake up Sunday mornings asking if Mrs. Sophia's magic delivery had arrived yet. The bread made him smile. The cannoli made him laugh. For a child who spent so much time in hospitals, these small joys mattered more than anything. Maya told herself that's why she accepted it. For Mateo, not because every Sunday she found herself hoping Dante would be the one making the delivery instead of the polite young man who usually arrived in the bakery's van. 4 Sundays passed. Maya didn't see Dante once. She told herself she was relieved. It was a lie. On the 5th Sunday, Maya was working her afternoon shift at Riley's Diner, a greasy spoon in a neighborhood where the customers tipped in singles and sometimes not at all. Her feet ached, her back hurt, and she'd spilled coffee on her uniform an hour ago, leaving a stain she couldn't afford to replace. "Order up." Charlie, the cook, slid 2 plates across the pass. "Table 7. Maya grabbed them and headed to the booth where a businessman sat scrolling his phone. As she set down his burger, she caught movement through the diner's front window. A black SUV had pulled up across the street. Expensive, tinted windows, engine running. 3 men got out, and Maya's stomach dropped. She recognized the type. Her neighborhood was full of them: enforcers, collectors, men who solved problems with fists and worse. They wore it in their posture, in the way they moved, like violence was always an option. They weren't here for the diner's food. The door opened. The 3 men entered, and the diner went quiet in the way places do when danger walks in. They scanned the room methodically, and when the tallest one's eyes landed on Maya, he smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Maya Santos?" His voice carried across the diner. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. The diner's back door led to an alley with no exit, and running would just confirm she was who they were looking for. "Can I help you?" She kept her voice steady, her hands at her sides even though they wanted to shake. "Need to have a conversation. Outside. Not a request." Charlie appeared from the kitchen, a meat tenderizer in his hand. He was 60, arthritic, and kind. "The lady's working. You can wait or come back later." The tall man's expression didn't change. "This doesn't concern you, old man." "She's my employee. That makes it my concern." Maya's throat tightened. Charlie was going to get hurt trying to protect her, and she didn't even know what these men wanted. "It's okay, Charlie," she said quietly. "I'll talk to them." "Maya, it's fine." She untied her apron with numb fingers. "I'll be right back." The November air was bitter as Maya followed the men outside. The street was busy enough that screaming would bring attention. That was something. The tall man stopped beside the SUV. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, maybe mid-30s, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. "You've been spending time with Dante Russo." "Not a question." Maya's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "His mother's bakery. Sunday deliveries to your apartment. Russo watching you like you're something precious." The man stepped closer. "That makes you leverage. Understand? I'm nobody. I just buy bread sometimes. Nobody doesn't get the Russo family treatment. Nobody doesn't get Dante's personal attention." His smile turned sharp. "But maybe you really don't know what you stepped into. So let me educate you." He pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. Dante, leaving a building downtown, surrounded by men in suits. Another photo, Dante at what looked like a high-stakes meeting, his expression cold and commanding. Dante Russo runs the North Side. Every business, every deal, every dollar that moves through this territory goes through him or pays him tribute. He's powerful, connected, and very, very dangerous. Maya's hands clenched. She'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed made it real. "The Moretti family wants the North Side," the man continued. "We've been patient. We've been strategic. But Russo won't negotiate, won't even meet." He pocketed his phone. "So we need to show him what happens when he refuses to play nice. And you, sweetheart? You're the message." "I don't mean anything to him," Maya said desperately. "We barely know each other." "Then you'll die for nothing. But somehow, I don't think Russo sees it that way." He gestured to the SUV. "Get in. Quietly. Or we go back inside and start with the old man. Your choice." Maya looked at the diner, at Charlie watching through the window with worried eyes. She thought about the other customers, innocent people who'd just wanted lunch. She thought about Mateo, who needed her. And she thought about Dante, who'd helped her without asking for anything in return. She couldn't let these men hurt people because of her. Maya took a step toward the SUV. The roar of a motorcycle engine shattered the moment. A black bike skidded to a stop in front of the SUV, and Dante Russo pulled off his helmet. He looked at Maya first, his dark eyes scanning her for injuries, and something fierce and protective flashed across his face. Then he looked at the tall man, and his expression went cold as winter. "Marcello." His voice was quiet. "Lethal. You just made a mistake." Marcello's hand moved toward his jacket. This is neutral territory, Russo. We're just having a conversation. That conversation's over. Dante dismounted, moving between Maya and the men with deliberate purpose. Get back in your vehicle, leave my territory, and tell your boss that touching what's mine has consequences. She's nobody, Marcello said, but his confidence had cracked. Just some waitress. She's under my protection. As of right now, that makes her more important than you'll ever be. Dante's hand rested casually near his jacket, where Maya knew his gun was holstered. I won't ask twice. The standoff lasted 3 heartbeats. 4. Then Marcello stepped back, nodding to his men. Moretti will hear about this. Good. Tell him if he wants a war, he can have one, but he won't like how it ends. The SUV pulled away, tires squealing, slightly. Only when it disappeared around the corner did Dante turn to Maya. Are you hurt? She shook her head, though her whole body was trembling now that the adrenaline was crashing. Dante's hand came up, hovering near her shoulder but not quite touching. Did they hurt you? No, they just... Her voice broke. They said I was leverage, that they'd use me to get to you. Something dark and dangerous moved through Dante's expression. Then he pulled out his phone, speaking rapidly in Italian. Maya caught enough to understand he was mobilizing his people, putting protection on the diner, on Charlie, on anyone the Morettis might target. When he finished, he finally looked at her again, really looked at her. You can't go home, he said quietly. What? Your apartment. They know where you live. They know your routine. They know about Mateo. His jaw tightened. The Morettis don't make idle threats. If they said you're leverage, they mean it. Maya's knees went weak. Mateo. Oh, God, Mateo. He's at the hospital for treatment, but he'll be home tonight. I have people there. Dante was already texting. They'll watch him until we move him somewhere safe. Move him? I can't just uproot him from the hospital. His treatment will continue. I'll make arrangements with Street. Catherine's for private care. Dante pocketed his phone. Maya, the Morettis won't stop. They'll use you, your brother, your mother, anyone connected to you to get what they want. The only way to keep your family safe is to put you somewhere they can't reach. Where? Her voice came out small. Dante's eyes held hers, and she saw the decision he'd already made. With me. 2 hours later, Maya stood in the foyer of a penthouse that belonged in magazines, not real life. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago's skyline. Original art hung on exposed brick walls. The furniture was modern, expensive, and looked like no one actually sat on it. This was Dante's home, his fortress. Sophia bustled in from the kitchen, embracing Maya like she'd expected her. Finally, Dante, show her to the guest suite. And Maya, you'll stay as long as needed. This isn't a discussion. Mateo arrived an hour later with his treatments, his stuffed elephant, and eyes wide as planets. Maya, this place is amazing. It has 5 bathrooms. 5. Their mother came last, brought by 2 of Dante's men, her expression torn between gratitude and terror. She pulled Maya aside the moment they were alone. Mija, do you know what you've done? Getting involved with a man like Dante Russo? I didn't get involved, Mama. I asked for directions. That's all. And now we're in his home, under his protection. Her mother's voice dropped. Protection comes with a price. It always does. He said there's no debt. There's always a debt. But her mother's eyes were wet. But if it keeps you and Mateo safe, if it keeps that little boy alive long enough to grow up, then I'll pay whatever price. God asks. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The guest suite was larger than their entire apartment, with a bathroom that had heated floors and a bed so soft it felt like clouds. Mateo was asleep in the adjoining room, comfortable and safe for the first time in weeks. But comfort felt wrong when it came at the cost of freedom. Maya found herself wandering the penthouse at 2 a.m, drawn to the living room where light still glowed. Dante sat on the leather sofa, laptop open, working despite the hour. He looked up when she entered. Can't sleep? Feels wrong. Being here, taking so much. You're taking what you need to survive. That's not wrong. He closed the laptop. Sit. You look like you're about to bolt. Maya perched on the chair across from him, maintaining distance. How long do we have to stay? Until the Moretti situation is resolved. And how long will that take? Dante's expression was unreadable. Depends on whether they're smart enough to back down or stupid enough to push. What if they push? Then I push back. Harder. His voice was matter of fact, like violence was just another business strategy. Which, Maya supposed, in his world it was. I don't understand this life, she said quietly. Territory, families, leverage, why does any of it matter? Because power is the only thing that keeps people safe. The only thing that makes sure men like Marcello can't just take whatever they want. Dante leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You think the police protect people in your neighborhood? They don't. They arrive after the damage is done, fill out reports, and leave. But me? My presence keeps order, keeps the real monsters at bay. By being a monster yourself, by being scarier than the monsters. His eyes met hers. I won't apologize for what I am, Maya, but I will promise you this while you're under my protection. No one touches you. No one threatens your family. And anyone who tries learns why that's a mistake. The conviction in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. Your mother said you're a good man, Maya said. Is she right? Dante was quiet for a long moment. I'm a man who does what's necessary. Sometimes that aligns with good. Sometimes it doesn't. He stood, moving to the windows. But for you and Mateo, I'll be whatever kind of man you need me to be. Maya should have left then. Should have gone back to her luxurious guest room and put distance between herself and this complicated, dangerous man. Instead, she stood and joined him at the window, looking out at the glittering city. Thank you, she said softly, for saving me today, for protecting my family. You thanked me once before, that night in the alley when you thought I was hurt. His voice held something like wonder. No one does that. No one sees me bleeding and offers help. Maybe they should. Dante turned to look at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. You're dangerous, Maya Santos. You make me want to be the man my mother thinks I am. And what man is that? Someone worthy of your trust. Someone worthy of your trust. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was gentle, reverent, completely at odds with the dangerous man she knew he was. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we figure out how to end this without anyone else getting hurt. As Maya walked back to her room, her skin still tingling where Dante had touched her, she realized something terrifying. She was starting to care about him, not just as her protector, not just as Sophia's son who'd shown her family kindness, as him, Dante Russo, with his contradictions and complications, his violence and his gentleness, his power and his surprising vulnerability. And that, Maya knew, was more dangerous than any threat the Morettas could make. Living in Dante's penthouse was like existing in two worlds simultaneously. By day, it was a fortress. Men in expensive suits came and went, speaking in code about shipments and territory and arrangements. Dante transformed from the man who'd touched Maya's face with gentle fingers to someone cold and commanding, a leader whose word was law. But in the quiet moments, usually late at night when Mateo was asleep and the city below seemed to breathe easier, another Dante emerged. It was their 5th night in the penthouse when Maya found him in the kitchen at midnight, making hot chocolate from scratch like his mother had taught him. Can't sleep again? He asked without turning around. Mateo had a nightmare. About the hospital. He gets them sometimes. Maya slid onto a bar stool. I calmed him down, but now I'm too awake. Dante poured 2 mugs of steaming chocolate, pushing one toward her. My father used to have nightmares. After he'd done something particularly brutal, he'd wake up screaming. My mother would make him this. He gestured to the mug. She said chocolate couldn't fix the darkness, but it could remind you there was still sweetness in the world. It was the first time he'd mentioned his father. Maya took a careful sip, the rich chocolate coating her tongue. Where is your father now? Dead. 6 years ago. Heart attack at 53. Dante's voice was neutral, but his knuckles were white around his mug. Everyone said it was stress. I think it was guilt. He spent 30 years building an empire on fear and violence, and in the end, his own heart couldn't carry the weight. Were you close? I was his heir. His soldier. His weapon when he needed one. Dante set down his mug. Close isn't the word I'd use, but I understood him, and he made sure I was ready to take over when he was gone. Maya thought about the man she'd met, protective, surprisingly gentle with Mateo, capable of making chocolate at midnight. Do you want this life? The empire? The violence? All of it? Dante was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, want is a luxury. I have responsibilities. People who depend on me. Territory that would become a bloodbath if I walked away. He met her eyes. My father's sins became my inheritance. I can't undo them. I can only try to manage them better. How? By being selective, by having rules. He counted on his fingers. No drugs in my territory, no trafficking, no harming women or children, no civilian casualties. His voice hardened. The Morettis don't share those rules. If they take over the north side, this city becomes a different kind of hell. Maya absorbed this, understanding dawning. So you're not the good guy, you're just the lesser evil. Exactly. Something like respect flickered in his expression. You understand faster than most. I've lived in neighborhoods where men like you operate. I know the difference between predators and protectors, even if the protectors have blood on their hands. Dante's laugh was harsh. That's generous. Most people just call us all criminals and move on. Most people haven't had a criminal save them twice. Maya held his gaze. Maya, or make midnight hot chocolate after calming a 7-year-old's nightmares. The air between them shifted, charged with something Maya didn't want to name. Dante broke it first, standing abruptly. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led her to his study, a room Maya hadn't entered before. It was lined with bookshelves, filled with leather-bound volumes that looked actually read rather than decorative. Dante pulled a photo album from a drawer. My mother made me promise to keep these. Said even monsters need to remember they were once children. He opened the album to a photograph of a young boy, maybe 8 or 9, grinning at the camera with chocolate smeared on his face. Sophia stood beside him, young and radiant, her arm around his shoulders. That's you, Maya said unnecessarily. Before I understood what my father really did, before I learned that the money paying for our nice house came from things I'm not proud of. He flipped through pages. Dante at his confirmation. Dante graduating high school. Dante in a suit that fit too well for someone so young. My mother wanted me to be a doctor. Can you imagine? Maya studied his face in the photographs, seeing the progression from innocent boy to hardened man. What did you want to be? An architect. I wanted to build things instead of... He gestured vaguely. It's not too late. Yes, it is. He closed the album. I killed my first man when I was 19. My father's orders. After that, there's no going back to building things. The confession should have terrified Maya. Should have sent her running back to her room, back to reality, back to the understanding that Dante Russo was dangerous. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. Thank you for telling me. Dante stared at their joined hands like he couldn't quite believe it was. I'm happening. You should be afraid of me. I am. A little. Maya's voice was steady. But I'm also grateful. And I think I'm starting to understand you. Understanding me is dangerous. Probably. But so is not paying rent and choosing between medication and food. Danger comes in different forms. She squeezed his hand. At least this danger makes midnight hot chocolate. Dante's laugh was surprised and genuine. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less burdened. You're remarkable, Maya Santos. You know that? Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Mateo's next treatment was scheduled, but they needed to discuss adjustments to his protocol. The reminder of reality crashed through the moment. Mateo, the reason she was here, the reason any of this mattered. I need to call them back in the morning, Maya said, pulling her hand away. I'll arrange transportation. And security. Dante's voice shifted back to business mode. You won't go anywhere without protection until this is resolved. How close are you to resolving it? Closer than yesterday. The Morettis are negotiating. Badly, but they're talking. His expression hardened. They wanted to meet, show their strength, prove they're serious about taking territory. And I showed them what happens when you threaten what's mine. Dante's voice was cold. 3 of their warehouses had unfortunate accidents last night. Their protection rackets in West Side suddenly found themselves paying tribute to me instead. And their main connection to the Colombian suppliers? He's decided my family offers better terms. Maya should have been appalled. Should have condemned the violence, the manipulation, the ruthless business tactics. But all she could think was, he did that for me, to keep me safe. When's the meeting? She asked. Tomorrow night. Neutral territory, witnesses, rules of engagement. Dante met her eyes. If it goes well, you can go home by the end of the week. Home. The word felt hollow. Their apartment was tiny, stressful. A constant reminder of everything they didn't have. Here, in Dante's fortress, with his protection and his midnight conversations, and the way he treated Mateo like he mattered, this felt more like home than anywhere Maya had lived in years. That realization terrified her more than any threat the Morettis could make. The next day, Sophia arrived with groceries and a determination to teach Mateo how to make proper Italian pasta. The penthouse kitchen filled with flour, laughter, and the kind of warmth Maya had forgotten existed. "You knead it like this, tesoro." Sophia guided Mateo's small hands. "Gentle but firm. The dough will tell you when it's ready." Mateo was having a good day. His color was better, his energy higher. Watching him laugh and work alongside Sophia made Maya's chest tight with an emotion she couldn't name. This was what normal looked like. What childhood should be when cancer wasn't stealing it. Dante appeared in the doorway, dressed for business in a dark suit that fit like armor. His eyes found Maya immediately, and something passed between them. An acknowledgement of last night's conversation, of boundaries crossed and truths shared. "Dante, come see what I made." Mateo held up misshapen pasta with pride. "Looks perfect," Dante said seriously, examining it like it was fine art. "You're a natural. Mrs. Sophia says I can work in her bakery when I'm older, if I want to." "You'd be lucky to have him," Dante told his mother. Sophia beamed. "He already has the passion. The rest is just technique and time." Time. The word hung heavy. Mateo needed more time. Time to grow up, to become the chef he dreamed of being, to live a life that wasn't defined by hospital rooms and treatments. Maya caught Dante's eye, and he gave a subtle nod. He understood. "I have to go," Dante said, checking his watch. "The meeting's at 8. I should be back by midnight." "Be careful," Sophia said, worry creasing her face. "Always, Mama." He kissed her cheek, then surprised Maya by doing the same to her. His lips brushed her cheekbone, warm and brief, and he murmured for her ears only, "Stay here. Stay safe. I'll end this tonight." Then he was gone, leaving Maya with her skin tingling and her heart racing. Sophia, of course, noticed everything. As soon as Mateo was distracted rolling dough, she pulled Maya aside. "He cares for you." "Sophia." "No, listen." Sophia's voice was firm but kind. "I know my son. I know what he is, what he does. But I also know his heart. And that heart, locked away for so many years, it's opening for you. I'm just someone he's protecting. You're someone he wants to protect. There's a difference." Sophia squeezed her hand. "Dante has protected many people. Business associates, neighbors, people who pay for his services. He doesn't make them midnight hot chocolate. He doesn't share his photo albums. He doesn't look at them the way he looks at you." Maya's throat was tight. "I can't afford to care about him. Not when I have Mateo to think about, bills to pay, a life that doesn't include—" She gestured vaguely at the luxury around them. "Include what? Safety? Kindness? Someone who treats your brother with respect and your mother with courtesy?" Sophia's eyes were knowing. "I think you're afraid it's too good to be true. That the protection comes with a price. Doesn't it always? With some men, yes. But my Dante? He gives because it's the right thing to do, even if the world has taught him to pretend otherwise." She cupped Maya's face gently. "Let yourself be cared for, tesoro. God knows you've spent enough years caring for everyone else." 8 o'clock came and went. 9. 10. Maya tried to focus on the movie Mateo had chosen, on her mother's gentle snoring from the other couch, on anything except the meeting happening across the city. At 11:15, her phone rang. "Unknown number." Maya answered, with trembling hands. "Maya Santos?" A woman's voice, cold and professional. "Yes? This is Mercy Hospital. Dante Russo has been brought into our emergency room. He listed you as his emergency contact. We need you to come immediately." The world tilted. "Is he?" "He's alive. But you need to come now." Maya was moving before she consciously decided to, grabbing her coat, her shoes. Sophia appeared from the guest room where she'd been reading, taking one look at Maya's face and going pale. "What happened?" "The hospital. Dante's hurt. I have to—" Maya couldn't finish the sentence. "I'll stay with Mateo and your mother. Go." Sophia's hands shook as she pushed Maya toward the door. "And Maya, bring my son home." The drive to Mercy Hospital was a blur. One of Dante's men, she thought his name was Marco, drove in silence, his jaw tight with worry. The hospital parking lot was filled with black SUVs, and men in expensive suits crowded the emergency room waiting area. They parted, like water when Maya entered, recognizing her somehow. A doctor approached immediately. "Miss Santos? I'm Dr. Reeves. Mr. Russo is stable, but he's asking for you." "What happened?" "Gunshot wound to the shoulder. He's lucky missed the major arteries. We've removed the bullet and stitched him up, but he lost blood and he's in considerable pain. Maya's vision swam. Gunshot. Dante had been shot. The doctor led her to a private room where Dante lay in a hospital bed, his shoulder wrapped in bandages, his face pale but alert. When he saw Maya, something in his expression cracked. "You came." "Of course I came, you idiot." Maya's voice broke as she approached the bed. "What happened?" Moretus decided negotiation wasn't their style after all, brought guns to a conversation. His voice was rough with pain. "Got most of them. But one got lucky." "Lucky? You could have died." "But I didn't." Dante reached for her hand with his good arm. "And the Moretus learned that shooting me just makes me angry. By morning, they'll have nothing left. No territory, no businesses, no connections. They're done." Maya should have cared about the implications, the violence that would follow. But all she could see was the blood seeping through his bandages, the pain he was trying to hide. "You scared me," she whispered. "I know. I'm sorry." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "But it's over now. You're safe. Mateo's safe. They can't touch you. I don't care about that." The words burst out before Maya could stop them. "I care that you got shot, that you could have died, that I—" She stopped, horrified by what she'd almost said. Dante's eyes widened with understanding. "Maya, don't. Whatever you're about to say, don't." She pulled her hand away. "I can't do this. I can't care about someone who gets shot at business meetings. I can't watch Mateo get attached to someone whose life is so dangerous. Then I'll change it." The words stopped her cold. Dante pushed himself up despite obvious pain, his dark eyes fierce. "I'll change it. Not overnight, not perfectly. But I'll work toward something different, something better. For you. For Mateo. For the chance that maybe he stopped, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. Maybe someone like me can deserve someone like you." Maya's vision blurred with tears. "You can't promise that." "No, but I can try. And I can promise that whatever I become, whatever changes I make, it'll be real. Because you make me want to be real again, Maya. Not the mask, not the monster, not the heir to my father's empire. Just me." The vulnerability in his voice broke something in Maya. She closed the distance between them, careful of his injury, and pressed her forehead to his. "You already are real to me," she whispered. "That's what terrifies me." Dante's good hand came up, cupping her face. "Then let's be terrified together." When he kissed her, it was gentle, reverent, nothing like the dangerous man she knew he was. It tasted like promises that might be impossible to keep, but God help her. Maya wanted to believe in them anyway. Behind them, the door opened. Marco cleared his throat. "Boss, sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation." Dante pulled back, his expression shifting instantly to business mode. "What kind of situation?" The Moretus sent a message. "They want to talk. Really talk this time. No tricks." Marco's voice was grim. "They're offering complete surrender of Northside territory and a formal apology for threatening Miss Santos." Dante's eyes narrowed. "What's the catch?" "They want face-to-face confirmation. You, at their headquarters, alone." "Absolutely not," Maya said immediately. But Dante was already thinking, calculating. "When?" "Tomorrow night. Tell them I'll be there." Dante ignored Maya's protest. "But Miss Santos comes with me. If they're serious about apologizing, they'll do it to her face." "Dante, no. Yes." His voice was final. "They threatened you. They owe you the apology. And having you there ensures they won't try anything stupid. They know killing me in front of a civilian witness would bring every law enforcement agency in Chicago down on them." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to refuse, but the steel in Dante's voice told her this wasn't up for discussion. The war was ending, and tomorrow night, she'd see exactly what that meant. The Moretti family headquarters was a restaurant in Little Italy, an upscale place with valet parking and reservations booked months in advance. From the outside, it looked completely legitimate. Maya supposed that was the point. Dante hadn't left the hospital until morning, and even then, he'd come home to the penthouse to rest for exactly 3 hours before preparing for tonight. His shoulder was bandaged beneath his shirt, and Maya could see him favoring it despite his attempts to hide the pain. Sophia had been furious. "You should be recovering, not walking into the snake pit." "The snakes are defanged, Mama. This is just formality." Dante kissed her cheek. "I'll be back before you know it." Now, as they pulled up to the restaurant in Dante's armored SUV, Maya's hands were clammy with nerves. She wore the one nice dress she owned, black and simple, borrowed heels from Sophia. Beside her, Dante was immaculate in a dark suit despite the injury hidden beneath. "Stay close to me," he murmured as the valet opened Maya's door. "Don't accept any food or drinks. And if something feels wrong, you get behind me immediately. Understood?" Maya nodded, her throat too tight for words. The restaurant had been cleared of regular customers. Only Moretti family members remained, men in expensive suits who watched Maya and Dante enter with expressions ranging from hostile to carefully neutral. At the center table sat an older man, maybe 60, with silver hair and eyes that held decades of calculated violence. Antonio Moretti, the patriarch. Russo. He stood, extending hand. "Thank you for coming." Dante shook it briefly. "You said you wanted to talk. I'm listening." Antonio's gaze moved to Maya, and she forced herself not to flinch. "And you brought the young lady. How gracious." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Santos, please accept my sincerest apologies for the actions of my men. They exceeded their authority." "Exceeded their authority?" Maya's voice came out stronger than she expected. "They threatened to kill me, to hurt my family. An unfortunate miscalculation." Antonio gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. Let's discuss this like civilized people." Dante pulled out Maya's chair, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder, a reminder that he was right there. Then he sat beside her, positioning himself between her and Antonio. "You wanted face-to-face," Dante said. "Here we are. State your terms." Antonio poured wine, though neither Maya nor Dante touched their glasses. "Complete withdrawal from Northside territory. Will relocate our operations south of Roosevelt Road. No interference, no retaliation, no further conflict. And in return, you leave our remaining territory intact. No expansion into Bridgeport or Pilsen." Antonio's smile was thin. "We coexist peacefully, like the old days, when your father and I understood mutual respect. My father is dead, and you broke respect when you threatened an innocent woman. A regrettable error in judgment by Marcello, who, I should mention, has been appropriately disciplined for his actions." Maya didn't want to know what appropriately disciplined meant in this world. Dante leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Why now? Why surrender when you've been pushing for Northside for 6 months?" Antonio was quiet for a moment. Then, "Because your response to our threat was instructive. In 3 days, you dismantled operations it took us years to build. You turned our allies against us. You proved that the cost of taking what you protect is higher than any potential gain." He met Dante's eyes. "You've become your father, Russo, maybe worse. And I'm too old to fight a war I can't win." The words hung heavy. Maya felt Dante tense beside her. "I'm nothing like my father," Dante said quietly, dangerously. "No?" Antonio gestured around the empty restaurant. "Your father would have killed Marcello the moment he touched Miss Santos, would have burned our operations to ash without a second thought, would have made us disappear in ways that kept other families obedient through fear." He leaned forward. "You did all of that in 72 hours. So tell me, how are you different?" Maya's hand found Dante's under the table. She squeezed gently, grounding him. "My father would have killed Maya too," Dante said, "to prove a point, to show that caring about anyone was weakness." His voice was steel. "I protect what's mine. That's not the same as senseless violence." "Perhaps." Antonio stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Regardless, my offer stands. Complete territorial withdrawal, formalized by the end of the week, in exchange for peace. And the apology? I've apologized. But if Miss Santos requires more..." Antonio turned to Maya. "What would satisfy you?" Maya swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed that this was a test, that her answer mattered more than just personal satisfaction. "I want your word," she said carefully, "that no one in my family or in any family under Dante's protection will be threatened again. That people trying to survive, trying to take care of sick children, trying to just live, won't become pawns in power games." Antonio studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It almost looked genuine. "You've chosen an interesting protector, Miss Santos. And Russo, you've chosen an interesting woman to protect." He extended his hand again, this time to Maya. "You have my word. On my family's honor, which still means something despite what you might think." Maya shook his hand, her palms sweaty, her heart racing. The meeting ended with formalities, documents to be drawn up, lawyers to make it official. As they left the restaurant, Maya didn't breathe easily until they were back in the SUV, doors locked, driving away. "That was too easy," she said. "I know." Dante's voice was grim. "Antonio Moretti doesn't surrender. He strategizes." "Meaning?" "Meaning he got what he wanted tonight. I'm just not sure what that was yet." They were 3 blocks from the penthouse when Maya's phone rang. The hospital. Her stomach dropped as she answered. "Hello? Miss Santos, this is Nurse Jennifer from Street Catherine's. There's been a complication with Mateo's treatment. We need you here immediately." Maya's world stopped. "What kind of complication?" "His vitals are unstable. Please, come as fast as you can." The call ended. Maya stared at her phone, unable to breathe. Dante was already redirecting the driver, his hand finding hers. "We'll get there. He'll be okay." But the fear in his eyes said he wasn't sure. Said that sometimes, even with all his power and protection, he couldn't control what mattered most. Mateo was all that mattered. And if something happened to him, Maya couldn't finish the thought. They raced through Chicago streets, sirens clearing their path as Dante called in favors. By the time they reached Street Catherine's, the best pediatric oncologist in the city was already there, summoned by a phone call from someone with the power to make hospitals move mountains. Sophia and Maya's mother met them in the waiting room, both crying. "He had a seizure." Maya's mother sobbed. They said it might be the new medication, or the cancer, or Maya didn't hear the rest. She was already running toward Mateo's room, Dante right behind her. The medical team worked with controlled urgency. Mateo lay unconscious, small and fragile, machines beeping frantically around him. Maya's legs gave out. Dante caught her, holding her upright as doctors shouted medical terms she didn't understand. "He's stabilizing," one doctor finally said. "The seizure has stopped, but we need to run tests, figure out what triggered it." Hours blurred together. Tests, consultations, specialists summoned by Dante's influence. Maya sat by Mateo's bedside, holding his small hand, praying to a god she wasn't sure listened to girls like her. Dante stood behind her the entire time, a silent presence. His injured shoulder must have been screaming, but he never sat, never left, never stopped making calls to bring in the best care money could buy. When Mateo finally opened his eyes at dawn, his first word was, "Maya? I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I'm right here." She couldn't stop the tears. "Did I scare you?" "Yeah, you scared me a lot." She kissed his forehead. "But you're okay now. The doctors are taking care of you." Mateo's eyes found Dante. "Did you stay all night?" "Of course. You look tired." Dante's laugh was rough. "So do you, buddy. Will you read to me, like Maya does?" Something in Dante's expression cracked. "Absolutely. What's your favorite book?" As Dante settled into the chair and began reading from the fantasy novel on Mateo's bedside table, his deep voice steady despite exhaustion and pain, Maya watched this dangerous man, this killer, this protector, this contradiction read about dragons and heroes to her little brother. And she realized with complete certainty she was in love with him. It was impossible, reckless, maybe the stupidest thing she'd ever felt, but it was real. Sophia appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene her son reading, Maya crying quietly, Mateo safe. She caught Maya's eye and smiled through her own tears, that knowing look that said she understood. The danger wasn't over. Mateo's health was still precarious. The Moretti situation felt unresolved despite Antonio's surrender. But in this moment, in this hospital room, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years of fighting cancer and poverty and fear. She felt hope, and she felt loved. Mateo came home from the hospital after 5 days, not to their cramped apartment in the neighborhood where sirens were a lullaby and gunshots were punctuation, but to Dante's penthouse, where Sophia had transformed the guest suite into a child's paradise. There were books everywhere, fantasy novels, cookbooks with pictures, stories about brave children who conquered impossible odds. A small kitchen playset occupied one corner, professional quality, the kind chefs used to teach children. And on the nightstand, a framed photograph. Mateo, Maya, their mother, Sophia, and Dante, taken the day before the seizure when they'd all been laughing over failed pasta shapes. "Is this really okay?" Maya asked Dante as they watched Mateo explore his new space with wonder. "We've been here 3 weeks. This was supposed to be temporary." "Nothing about you feels temporary," Dante said quietly, before Maya could respond. Her phone rang. An unknown number, but something made her answer. Maya Santos? A woman's voice, professional but cold. Yes, this is Linda Chen from Child Protective Services. We've received a complaint regarding your brother, Mateo Santos. I need to schedule a home visit to assess his living conditions. Maya's blood went cold. A complaint? From who? I'm not at liberty to say, but allegations have been made about inadequate housing, exposure to dangerous individuals, and questionable guardianship decisions. Papers rustled in the background. I'm required by law to investigate. I can be there tomorrow at 10 a.m. What's your current address? Maya looked at Dante, who'd gone completely still, his expression darkening. Can I call you back with that information? You have 2 hours, Miss Santos. After that, I'll be forced to involve law enforcement for a welfare check. The line went dead. Maya's hands shook as she lowered the phone. Someone reported me to Fawn, CPS. They're coming to investigate Mateo's living situation. Dante's jaw clenched. Antonio. What? The meeting was too easy. Moretti surrendering without a real fight. Dante's voice was ice. He was gathering information, learning what mattered to me. And now he's attacking where I can't fight back through the system, through lawyers and bureaucrats and laws I can't bend. Sophia appeared in the doorway, having clearly heard everything. He's trying to take the boy? He's trying to prove I'm an unfit influence. Dante's fists clenched. If CPS investigates and finds Mateo living in the home of a known criminal, they'll remove him from Maya's custody, place him in foster care. No, Maya's voice broke. No, he can't survive that. The stress, being separated from me, the inconsistent medical care. I know. Dante pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyers. We'll fight this. How? They're right. Maya's composure finally cracked. I am living with a criminal. I did expose Mateo to your world. Everything they're going to say about me is true. Maya, this is my fault. I should have kept my distance. Should have just taken the bread deliveries and never gotten involved. Tears streamed down her face. But I was selfish. I liked feeling safe. I liked you and Sophia and this life that isn't mine. And now Mateo's going to pay for my mistakes. Stop. Dante's voice was sharp. You're not the villain here. You're a woman who's been surviving impossible odds for years, who's sacrificed everything for her brother, who's worked herself to exhaustion just to keep him alive. That's not what CPS will see. They'll see a poor girl who got mixed up with the mob and endangered her sick brother. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. They'll see someone who's not good enough to take care of him. And maybe they're right. The words hung in the air like poison. Sophia made a sound of distress, but Dante held up a hand, his eyes never leaving Maya's face. Do you believe that? He asked quietly. That you're not good enough? I believe that Mateo deserves better than what I can give him. Then give him better. Dante moved closer. Not by leaving, by staying, by accepting help when it's offered, by letting people who care about both of you be part of your family. That's not how the world works. That's exactly how my world works. His voice was fierce now. I decide what's acceptable in my territory. I decide who's under my protection. And I'm deciding right now that Mateo Santos will have the best medical care, the best home environment, and the best future possible. CPS won't find a damn thing wrong because there won't be anything wrong. You can't just make this disappear. Watch me. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. Dante's lawyers descended like a well-dressed army. The penthouse was transformed from a bachelor's fortress into a family home. Photos appeared on walls, children's artwork, created by Mateo under Sophia's guidance, evidence of stable routines and proper care. Mateo's medical team provided documentation of his excellent treatment, his improving condition, the consistency of his care. Sophia signed affidavits about her involvement, about the family environment she'd helped create. Even Maya's mother, initially terrified of lawyers and official documents, stood firm in her statement. My daughter has given Mateo everything, and Mr. Russo has given them both safety and support. My grandson is thriving here. But Maya knew it wasn't enough. No amount of documentation could hide what Dante was. The CPS investigator arrived at exactly 10 a.m. Linda Chen was in her 40s, with tired eyes that had seen too many bad situations. She walked through the penthouse with a clipboard, making notes, asking questions. And Mr. Russo's relationship to the family? Linda asked Maya directly. Maya hesitated. What was Dante? Protector? Friend? Something. More? He's someone who's helped us when we needed it. The complaint alleges that Mr. Russo is connected to organized crime, that his presence puts Mateo in danger. The complaint is from someone trying to hurt me, Dante said, entering the room. He'd stayed out of the initial interview at his lawyer's advice, but Maya could see he couldn't hold back any longer, and through me, hurt Maya and her family. Linda's expression was carefully neutral. Are you denying your alleged criminal connections? I'm stating that whatever my business dealings, I've never put a child in danger. Mateo is safer here than he'd be anywhere else in Chicago. Safe from what, Mr. Russo? From external threats? Or from you? The question was pointed, professional, and utterly damning. From a system that would separate him from his sister during the most critical phase of his treatment, Dante said evenly. From poverty that would force them to choose between medication and rent. From a world that sees a sick kid from a poor family as a statistic rather than a life worth saving. Linda wrote something on her clipboard. I'll need to speak with Mateo. Alone. Maya's heart stopped. He's been through so much. I understand, but it's required. Linda's voice softened slightly. I'll be gentle. They left Linda with Mateo in his room. Maya stood in the hallway, hands pressed against the wall, trying to breathe. He'll be fine, Sophia said, rubbing her back. Mateo is smart. He'll tell her the truth. The truth is that we're living with a mafia boss, Maya whispered. How is that going to help? 20 minutes later, Linda emerged. Her expression was unreadable. Miss Santos, can we speak privately? They sat in Dante's study. Linda closed the door. Mateo is one of the most articulate 8-year-olds I've ever interviewed, Linda began. He told me about his cancer, his treatments, his dreams of being a chef. He told me about his sister who works herself to death to take care of him. And he told me about the family he's found here. She flipped through her notes. He said, and I quote, Dante saved my sister when bad men scared her. He makes sure I get my medicine on time. He reads to me when I'm scared. And Mrs. Sophia teaches me to cook like a real chef. They love us. I know because I'm sick, and sick kids know when people are pretending. Maya's eyes filled with tears. The complaint alleged neglect, Linda continued. Dangerous environment, inadequate care, questionable judgment. But what I see is a child receiving excellent medical attention, living in a stable home with multiple adult caregivers, and thriving despite serious illness. She set down her clipboard. I also see a young woman who sacrificed everything for her brother, who made an unconventional choice to accept help from an unconventional source, and I see that choice working. So, Maya's voice was barely audible. So, I'm recommending the complaint be dismissed, with the caveat that you maintain Mateo's current level of care and keep CPS updated on his medical status. Linda stood. But Miss Santos? Be careful. Whoever filed this complaint has resources. They'll try again if they think they can hurt you through your brother. After Linda left, Maya found Dante on the penthouse balcony, staring at the city below. His injured shoulder was rigid with tension. We passed, she said quietly. For now. He didn't turn around. But she was right. They'll try again. Antonio won't stop until he finds a way to hurt me. And you and Mateo, you're the way. Then I'll leave. I'll take Mateo and disappear. Go somewhere Antonio can't find us. Now Dante turned, his expression fierce. You think I'd let you run? Let you go back to struggling alone? To being vulnerable? It's not your choice. The hell it isn't. His voice rose, rare anger breaking through his control. You're under my protection. That's not something I take back because it becomes inconvenient. I'm not asking for permission, Maya shouted back. I'm telling you that I can't do this anymore. I can't live in your world, where enemies use sick children as weapons, where everything I do puts Mateo in danger. We're loving you, she stopped, horrified by what she'd almost said. Dante went completely still. We're loving me what, Maya? Nothing. Forget it. No. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. Say it. Finish the sentence. Where loving you means choosing between you and my brother's safety. The words burst out. Is that what you want to hear? That I'm in love with you? That I've been in love with you since you read to Mateo in the hospital? That every morning I wake up in your home and feel like maybe I deserve this happiness? Her voice broke. But I don't deserve it. Not if it costs Mateo his safety. Not if it makes me the kind of person who chooses romance over her brother's life. Dante's expression was stricken. You think I'd ever make you choose? You already have. Just by existing in my life. Tears streamed down Maya's face. I can't be with you and keep Mateo safe. So I'm choosing him. I'm always going to choose him. She turned to walk away, but Dante caught her arm. What if there was another option? There isn't. What if I walked away from this life? His voice was quiet but intense. From the territory, the business, everything my father built. What if I became someone different? Someone who didn't bring danger to the people he loves? Maya stared at him. You can't just walk away from being a mob boss. I can. It would take time, careful planning, transitioning power to someone I trust, but I could do it. His dark eyes held hers. For you, for Mateo, for the chance at something real. Dante, I've been looking for a way out since my father died. A way to honor my mother's dreams for me instead of my father's legacy. But I didn't have a reason strong enough to take that risk. He cupped her face gently. Until now. You're my reason, Maya. You and that brave little boy who wants to be a chef. You're worth more than any empire. Maya wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe. It won't be that simple. Antonio will see it as weakness. Other families will move in. People will get hurt. Let me worry about that. Dante's thumb wiped away her tears. Just tell me if I can find a way out. A way to become someone who doesn't bring danger to your door. Would you want that? Would you want me? The answer was immediate, undeniable. Yes. Dante kissed her then, deep and desperate, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. Then give me time. Give me a chance to end this right. And trust that I'll move heaven and hell to keep you both safe while I do. 3 weeks later, Dante called a meeting. Not at the penthouse, not at one of his restaurants, but a neutral warehouse in an industrial area where the old families gathered for important business. Maya wasn't supposed to know about it, but she'd overheard enough phone calls, seen enough tension in Dante's shoulders, to understand this was the end game. She told Sophia she was running errands and took a cab to the warehouse. The building was surrounded by cars, expensive vehicles belonging to Chicago's power players. Men in suits stood guard at every entrance, but they recognized Maya. Word had spread about Dante Russo's woman, the waitress who'd somehow captured his attention. One guard, looking uncomfortable, tried to stop her. Miss Santos, this isn't a place for what? For people who actually care about what happens? Maya's voice was steel. Let me through. Boss will be angry. Boss will deal with it. She pushed past him and into the warehouse. The space was vast, mostly empty except for a circle of men gathered around a table in the center. Maya recognized. Some of them from news reports: the Castellanos, the O'Briens, the Russos, the families that carved up Chicago like a pie. And at the head of the table, Antonio Moretti sat with a smile that made Maya's skin crawl. Dante stood across from him, his posture relaxed but his eyes hard. When he saw Maya, shock flickered across his face, followed immediately by anger and fear. But before he could say anything, Antonio laughed. The infamous Miss Santos. How delightful. He gestured to an empty chair. Please, join us. We were just discussing your future. My future is none of your business, Maya said. But she moved closer, positioning herself beside Dante. On the contrary, your future is exactly what we're negotiating. Antonio spread his hands. You see, Dante has made an extraordinary proposal. He wants to retire, walk away from his territory, his operations, everything his father built. Murmurs rippled through the gathered men. In exchange, Antonio continued, he's offered to facilitate a peaceful transition, introduce his successor, ensure loyalty, prevent the power vacuum that usually leads to bloodshed. His smile widened. All he asks is that his family, including you and young Mateo, be left alone, completely and permanently. It sounded reasonable, logical, but Maya knew Antonio Moretti well enough now to hear the trap. What's the catch? She asked. Catch? Antonio looked wounded. My dear, I'm offering your lover exactly what he wants. Freedom, legitimacy, a chance to become the architect he once dreamed of being. For what price? Information. Antonio's voice hardened. Dante has built an empire on secrets. Connections to politicians, judges, police, evidence of decades of deals, both his father's and his own. I want all of it. Every file, every recording, every piece of leverage that kept the Russo family powerful. Dante's expression didn't change, but Maya felt him tense beside her. You want me to betray everyone my father did. Business with, Dante said flatly. Destroy their protection so you can take over not just territory, but power. I want insurance that you won't change your mind in 6 months and come back with the full force of your resources to reclaim what you've given up. Antonio leaned forward. Give me the leverage your father built, and I'll give you peace. Refuse, and every family here will see you as a threat trying to hide behind a retirement story. One of the other family heads, an older man Maya didn't recognize, spoke up. Russo stepping down creates instability. How do we know his successor can maintain order? You don't, Antonio said smoothly. Unless we have assurances. The kind that come from knowing exactly where all the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking, of course. Maya's mind raced. This wasn't retirement. This was Antonio taking everything Dante's family had built and using it to cement his own power. He'd control Chicago completely, and every person Dante's own father had protected or done business with would be vulnerable to Antonio's manipulation. Don't do it, Maya said quietly to Dante. Maya, he'll use that information to hurt people. Not just criminals, but the police officers your father protected when they made mistakes. The judges who ruled fairly instead of by the book. The politicians who actually tried to help communities. She met his eyes. You said your father's sins were your inheritance. But so is his protection of people who deserved second chances. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Antonio. No. The word dropped like a stone. Antonio's smile vanished. Excuse me? I said no. I'll transition my territory peacefully. I'll ensure stability, but I won't hand you leverage to destroy people who don't deserve it. Dante's voice was calm but absolute. My father was a criminal, but he had lines. So do I. And you just asked me to cross them. Then you don't walk away. Antonio stood. You think you can just retire? Become a civilian? Without giving us insurance that you won't become a problem? That's exactly what I think. Dante moved in front of Maya, protective even now. Because if any of you try to stop me, you'll learn that I'm my father's son in the ways that matter. The empire I've built over 6 years isn't just territory and money. It's relationships, loyalty, people who'll burn your operations to the ground if you hurt me or mine. The temperature in the room dropped. Are you threatening us? One of the family heads asked. I'm stating facts. I want peace. I want out. But I won't buy my freedom by destroying innocent people. Dante's eyes swept the room. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. After this meeting. The implication was clear. Dante was offering single combat, settling this like the old days, when bosses fought their own battles instead of sending soldiers. Antonio laughed, but it sounded forced. You're injured, Russo. That shoulder's barely healed. You think you can take on anyone in this room? Try me. The challenge hung in the air. Maya's heart hammered. Dante was still recovering. He'd been shot 3 weeks ago. Fighting now would be suicide. But she understood what he was doing, proving he wouldn't be bullied, showing that walking away was a choice, not weakness. Antonio studied Dante for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. You've got stones, Russo. I'll give you that. He sat back down. But understand this. You walk away without giving us insurance. You're on your own. Any problems that come up, any instability in the transition, that's your responsibility. And if we decide you've become a problem, then you know where to find me. Dante's voice was steady. But leave Maya and her family out of it. That's non-negotiable. We'll see. Antonio's smile returned, cold and calculating. Meeting adjourned. Everyone out, except Russo and his woman. The warehouse, slowly emptied until only Antonio, Dante, Maya, and a handful of guards remained. Antonio circled them like a predator. You love her. Actually love her. I can see it. Is that so surprising? From you? Yes. Antonio stopped in front of Maya. Tell me, Miss Santos, do you know what you're taking on? A man trying to leave this life but carrying all its scars? The enemies, the violence, the possibility that someone like me might decide he's too dangerous to leave alive? I know exactly what I'm taking on, Maya said firmly. Someone who's trying to be better, who chose to protect a child he didn't know instead of using me as leverage, who read fantasy books in a hospital and cried when he thought I wasn't looking. Dante's hand found hers. He's worth the risk, Maya continued, worth believing in. And if you or anyone else tries to hurt him or my family, you'll find out that I'm not as innocent as I look. 2 years of fighting cancer teaches you to fight for what matters. And he matters. Antonio stared at her for a long moment. Then, shockingly, he laughed. You've got fire. I respect that. He turned to Dante. You're a fool to walk away for a woman. But you're also the first man in this business I've seen actually love something more than power." He moved toward the exit, then paused. "I'll honor the deal. Clean transition, no interference with your family. But Russo? The files your father kept? Someone's going to come looking for them eventually. When they do, you better hope your love is enough armor." Then he was gone, leaving Maya and Dante alone in the vast warehouse. Maya turned to Dante, her hands shaking from adrenaline. "What just happened?" "I think." Dante pulled her close. "I think I just bought us a future. Expensive, precarious, but ours. He threatened you, said people would come looking. Let them come." Dante's voice was fierce. "I've spent 6 years building power to protect people. Now I'll spend the rest of my life using that power to protect you and Mateo. Whatever comes." Maya kissed him, pouring every emotion of the past hour into it. When they broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his chest. "What now?" "Now?" Dante's arms tightened around her. "Now we go home. Tell my mother she was right about you being the best thing that ever happened to me. And we start building something new. What about your territory? Your successor?" "Already arranged. Marco's ready to take over. He's young but smart. And unlike my father or me, he never wanted the violence. Just the business." Dante smiled slightly. "He'll be better than I was." As they walked out of the warehouse into the afternoon sunlight, Maya felt something settle in her chest. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Complicated, uncertain, but theirs. 6 months later, Maya stood in the kitchen of their new home. Not the penthouse, which Dante had sold, but a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood where children played in the street and neighbors brought over casseroles. It was smaller than the fortress. More normal. Perfect. Through the window, she could see Mateo in the backyard with Dante, both of them working on a garden. Mateo's hair had grown back, darker and curlier than before. His latest scans had shown improvement. Not remission yet, but moving in the right direction. He was thriving. Sophia appeared beside Maya, adding ingredients to the sauce they were making. "He's good with children. I always knew he would be. He says Mateo reminds him of himself." "Before everything changed." Maya smiled. "Teaching him about growing things instead of destroying them." "My son is finally building." Sophia's voice was thick with emotion. "Like I always dreamed." Dante had kept his word. He'd walked away from the territory, spent months ensuring a peaceful transition. Marco ran the north side now, and by all accounts, was running it better, less violence, more community investment, and actual protection rather than exploitation. Antonio Moretti had been true to his word as well. No attempts on Dante's life, no threats to Maya's family, an uneasy peace that seemed to be holding. Dante was working with an architecture firm now, starting from the bottom, despite his obvious talent, building the legitimate life he'd once dreamed of. The pay was a fraction of what he'd made before, but Maya watched him come home with sketches and excitement instead of blood and exhaustion. He was happier, lighter, more himself. Maya had gone back to school, finishing her degree in education. She wanted to teach, to help kids like Mateo who'd fallen through the cracks. Dante's connections, the legal ones, had helped secure funding, scholarships, opportunities she'd never dared dream of. Their mother had moved into the Brownstones' guest room, finally able to quit one of her jobs. She spent mornings with Mateo, afternoons at a community center teaching ESL classes, evenings with her family, around a dinner table that always had Sophia's cooking on it. It was normal, beautifully, impossibly normal. "Dinner's ready," Maya called through the back door. Mateo and Dante came in, both covered in dirt and grinning. Mateo had grown 3 inches, his body finally getting nutrition and stability. He was taking cooking classes twice a week at Sophia's bakery, his dream of becoming a chef, slowly becoming reality. Over pasta and bread, they talked about ordinary things. Mateo's upcoming school play, Maya's final exams, Dante's current project, a community center he was helping design for the neighborhood. "Will it have a big kitchen?" Mateo asked. "For cooking classes? The biggest?" Dante confirmed. "And you can help me design it. Show me what a real chef needs." Mateo beamed. After dinner, after Mateo went to bed with a new cookbook Sophia had bought him, Maya and Dante sat on their small porch watching the neighborhood settle into night. "Do you miss it?" Maya asked quietly. "The power, the territory, being someone everyone feared?" Dante was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I miss the certainty. Knowing my place in the world, having clear rules." He took her hand. But then I come home to you and Mateo. I wake up next to you every morning. I'm building things that help people instead of destroying them. And I don't miss it at all. Even when the money's tight, when we have to budget for groceries? Especially then. His smile was soft. Because it means we're real. This life, this family, it's not built on fear or violence. It's built on choosing each other every day. Maya leaned into him, comfortable and safe. I love you. I love you too. Dante kissed her temple. Thank you for giving me a reason to change. For seeing something worth saving in me. Thank you for saving me first. That night when I was lost and scared and asked a stranger for directions. Maya smiled. Best decision I ever made. Second best. Dante corrected. Best. Decision was giving me a chance after you found out what I was. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars appear over Chicago's skyline. Inside, Sophia was teaching Maya's mother a new recipe, their laughter floating through open windows. Mateo was probably reading under his covers with a flashlight, the way he did every night. This was their life now. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and earned, and theirs. Maya thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, exhausted, desperate, surviving on 4 hours of sleep and hope that was running out. She'd asked a dangerous man for directions while he was running from police. And somehow, impossibly, that moment had led here, to a home filled with love, to a future that felt possible instead of precarious, to a family built not by blood alone but by choice and courage and the belief that people could change. What are you thinking? Dante asked. That I'm glad I got lost that night. Glad the police were chasing you. Glad I was brave enough or stupid enough to ask for help. She turned to look at him. Glad you were kind enough to give it. Dante's expression was tender in the porch light. I should have known then. The moment you asked if I was okay instead of running, that's when everything changed. Did it? You saw me bleeding and offered help. No one had done that in. He trailed off. Ever maybe. And I couldn't stop thinking about you. This brave, selfless girl who cared more about a stranger's injury than her own safety. I still care more about others than myself, Maya admitted. I know. But now you let others care about you too. Let me care about you. Dante's hand cupped her face. That's the real miracle. Not that I changed, but that you learned you deserved to be loved as much as you love everyone else. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Happy ones, for once. Will you marry me? Dante asked suddenly. Maya's breath caught. What? Marry me. Not because you need protection or because Mateo needs stability. But because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life choosing you. Building a future with you. Being the man you make me want to be. He pulled a simple ring from his pocket. Nothing like the expensive jewelry he could have afforded in his old life. But perfect in its simplicity. Marry me, Maya Santos. Make this official. Yes. The answer came immediately, from the deepest part of her heart. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed as fireworks exploded somewhere in the distance. Someone celebrating something, the sound echoing across the neighborhood. Inside, they heard Sophia shriek with joy. Apparently, they'd had an audience. The door burst open, and Mateo ran out in his pajamas. You're getting married? We're getting married, Dante confirmed, pulling Mateo into a hug with Maya. How do you feel about being my best man? Really? Mateo's eyes were huge. Really? No one else I'd rather have beside me. Maya's mother appeared with Sophia, both women crying happy tears. They pulled Maya into embraces, talking about weddings and dresses and celebrations. As chaos and joy swirled around her, Maya caught Dante's eye across the porch. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that still took her breath away. This was their family. Found, chosen, built from impossible circumstances and maintained through love and courage. Maya thought about that night 6 months ago. The cold, the fear, the desperation, asking a stranger for directions while he ran from police. She'd been looking for a hospital. Instead, she'd found home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.